Hey everybody, welcome back. So this is going to be sort of tutorial 2 part B, basically where I'll do another image and we'll do something very specific about cleaning up our background and getting multiple plates ready for animation, as well as kind of building out some extra parts of our subject. So this will be a good one to sort of do this on. So go through the same process, layer from background. Go ahead and make a copy by hitting Control or Command J. I'll lock this other copy down so I'm not going to mess with it too much, and then we'll get cooking. So I find that a lot of times it's simpler for me to start with my subject or my kind of focal plate, and then kind of go from there. So here we have this bird, and we'll go ahead and cut this one out. Maybe start from right here, and you can see there's like some fuzziness here to the bird, so we're going to want to make sure that we try to capture some of that as we're going, and then you can just be assured of a more accurate representation of your subject. So I'm going to show you guys some various techniques here, and with this one I'm going to show you a kind of a new technique. After I get this cut out, I just want to do this by comparison so that you can see kind of how it works, and the advantages and disadvantages of trying these various other techniques, depending of course on what your subject is. So here you can see we're going through some feather stuff, so I'm trying to capture most of this as quickly as I can, as best I can, right? Because you can see there's some feathers that are jutting out here from the background, so I'm trying to kind of capture those a little bit. Again, trying to be precise. You can get away with that 90% of the time. 90% accuracy is going to be more than adequate, but what you're just trying to do is capture kind of the essence of it. It doesn't matter if you miss kind of a little feather here or there. Your objective is always just to kind of be honest and true to the subject matter, and then sometimes get away with a little bit of smoke and mirrors, if you will. So I can get little bumps here just by kind of messing with my Bezier handles a little bit, just to keep things kind of a little lifelike, if you will. Okay, now we're coming to this interesting area where, of course, we're missing bird, right? So we just have this area where we can see the outside of the edge of the wing here, so we can sort of kind of interpolate where that'll go a little bit. So we'll kind of just draw where the bird might have been, where it could have been, and then we can kind of go out that way. Alright, we're going to cut this bird all the way out, and this is the part of the video that I'll go ahead and just speed up a little bit, because you guys know the deal, and I'll see you on the back side of getting this bird done. Alright, see you in a sec. Okay, well there we go. We got our bird cut out. Pretty much everything is where it needs to be, as far as I can tell. So yeah, there's the bird, and what we'll do now is we'll separate a couple of our other characters out of this, to make sure that we have exactly what we need where we need it. And I think the other characters here are, one is going to be the stick, right? The branch that the bird is on. Another one's going to be this front leaf, and the other one is these back branches. We'll probably have those moving parallax separate from the background. So we'll go ahead and do our best to isolate those. So I'll go ahead and kind of speed through those processes and get everything just as I need it to be, and then I'll see you on the back side of it. Okay. Okay, back here from cutting out the stick, it's fine. You'll notice that when I cut out the stick, I ended up removing some of this plant, right? So that's why we keep the original file, because I'll need to cut out multiple things from the same spot that are overlapping, right? So I cut out the stick, which I'll need to go ahead and clean up, right, to get these plants off. And then I'm going to have to pull out this front branch as well, and you can see that the bird even has part of the plant on it. So this will all need to be done from the, fortunately, one we saved from before. So I can just simply make another copy out of that and have this to go ahead and make to cut out the plant from. So I'll go ahead and do the plant, then I'll do this branch back here, and I'll be back to you in a bit. Okay, everybody, we're back. We pretty much got most of our main characters cut out. We're going to have to build out stick. We're going to have to build out bird. The plant's fine. The back branches are fine. But we also still need to make ourselves a background. So you can see that we have this background to build. So we can just use what we have. For this case, we're going to want to just build out an entire background completely devoid of anything. No bird, no branch. No plants, nothing. So we're basically just going to use this bokeh, this like soft blurred background, to pretty much just build our kind of clean back plate from. So we'll use a pretty large brush, maybe like 400 pixels or something, and then what we'll do is just sort of build this out, kind of going along with what we have. And this is going to take a little bit of a little finessing and everything, but we should be able to kind of recreate this pretty well to some degree, just by sourcing different areas, getting dark where we have to, staying light where we have to, just as long as it feels right to you. And you don't be afraid to bump up your brush even larger to get more softness. This feels pretty good. And then we'll want to do the same thing all the way through the branch, right? Just all the way through up here. Maybe get some of this yellow over here. This brown is interesting, right? We're going to want to kind of use that a little bit. Maybe get some of this darker stuff happening up here. My brush size might be a little large for what we're doing, but easily scale that down. Yeah, the more kind of detailed work you do, the more you'll want to get your brush size the appropriate size. That's pretty good, right? So that last little dot felt a little heavy, right? So maybe we'll come back here, get a little bit larger brush size and kind of wash it through there. And you see this like hard line right here. Don't be afraid to take the opacity down on your brush a little bit. Just kind of like, get a little bit of stuff that can just blend in. Try to make the scene as natural as possible. And then when you're ready to really go for it, just start coloring it in. So this over here should be interesting. We have all of this to kind of do, so we're just going to follow along kind of with what's already there. Again, the detail will kind of end up coming out as we get a smaller brush. Don't worry about that kind of stuff. You'll be able to kind of expand this space over here, and we can always kind of cover up that. Maybe we'll build out some of this over here, and then get our opacity down a little bit. Kind of cover this up into here a little bit. Maybe we can pull some of this area, get through here. And just, you know, whatever feels kind of comfortable and right to you. There's a few tricks to it. Most of it's just kind of practicing as you're going along. But that being said, you should be getting good at it by about now. Kind of just getting a sense of kind of what works and what doesn't. What's nice about this is it is this like really kind of blurred out background. So I mean, kind of almost whatever we do ends up being kind of the truth. So that's helpful, right? We can kind of take some more of this bird out here with this background. And if you do it right, the background won't even ever be distracting, right? We're going to be pulling most of this right out of the image kind of anyways, because basically we don't want people to see this at all. Another thing you can do is like just do large swaths of coloring from somewhere else, and not be too worried about kind of how it turns out. They're just nice. This background should feel pretty homogeneous. And you can see that we have these other areas, right, where this feels like a dark line, like a heavy separation. We can mess with that a little bit to sort of get things a little bit more squared away. This feels good. And then we can get like a really large brush. Not that large, but maybe like 800 or something. And then we can take the opacity down a little bit so we can get like kind of a softer connection with some of this stuff, so it doesn't feel so, you know, harsh. And I mean, I don't know exactly what this image would have or should have looked like, but it's alright. No one's gonna know the difference by the time we're done with this. So just watch out for those like little latent pieces that you have here and there. Maybe a little bit more brown through here, right? Just to smooth that out a little bit. Right? Who knows? I mean, that's fine. Right, so I'll turn on my back branches now. Again, we'll have to clean those up. I'll turn on my front plant, my front branch, or my mid branch, and then also there. And you can see the background totally turned out fine, right? No big deal. So let's talk a little bit about building out this branch. We only need enough to make the bird's movement appropriate, right? So if I had the bird here and I want it to move, or maybe somehow it's sort of like it bobs or whatever in the picture, well then maybe we want it to show some branch, right? We can't have it show no branch. That would be crazy. But we don't need to build out the entire branch. We just need to build up enough branch to sort of make this work. And so we can kind of do that by either transforming it, like here I have this piece of the branch. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and take this part of the branch, cut it, put it on another layer, and go ahead and put it back where it belongs. And then what I can do is just simply Control T, like transform this branch, and just sort of bring it down here a little bit, right? So now I'm sort of matching it up there, and I'll take this branch and I'll do the same thing. I'll just match it up here, and it's like, you're like, oh Mike, well that's not like, there's no seam there. It's like it doesn't look very seamless, and it's like, well, that's okay, because really what we're trying to do is just give ourselves enough movement on the branch that we can get the bird to move and shift without getting too hung up on how much it can move and shift. So What I'll do is with the eraser tool, I'll come over this other branch, make it kind of big, again hardness 0. What I'll do is I'll just like kind of like, I can feather this in a little bit, and that's if I went all the way. So maybe let's go all the way. Let's see what happens if we do that. Transform that again. We'll bring it up over here, and you can see the scale and the size isn't perfect, but we can kind of mess around with the branch a little bit just to get it to fit. And then, you know, that's pretty good. That's fine. See how this is doing down here. Pretty good. Pretty good. Scoot this out back here. And this is just the Control T, the transform tool. So here I have this branch, and if I change the opacity a little bit, you'll see I have some overlap, right? So I could take this overlap a little bit and just do it like that. And you'll notice now that I should have enough branch here that almost no matter what I do with the bird, and you know, this is not, I don't need to worry about that the bird moves here or there, because no matter what happens, there's going to be enough branch there for me to be able to move the bird without getting too hung up on where it belongs. So now that we have that, well, now we're able to have a little bit more leeway with where that bird belongs. Now, as far as the branch is concerned, probably want to just put this back on the same layer. So I'll just select these two layers and hit Control or Command E, and that merges these two layers back together. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and do a little stamping here as well. Too big, just so I can get rid of these front parts here. This doesn't belong. So I'll actually want to get rid of these leaves that are over it, so I can kind of maintain a certain sense of continuity of the branch. I really don't want those leaves to be part of there. And even this line right here, don't love it, so I kind of want to get rid of that as well. Like this gone, this gone. This part of the branch right here, this seam right here, maybe I'll just kind of like build that out a little further. Try to get rid of that. Up here you can see a little bit of green still, so again, just want to get rid of anything that looks like it's part of the front of it. That's fine. And remember, our bird's going to be right here, so it doesn't have to be perfect where the bird is, because we won't have much motion. So that branch looks pretty good, pretty continuous, and you know, not too bad. I'll go ahead and move the branch in front of it now, and we'll sort of be able to see how we can get this branch moving in front of it. And don't worry about these weird kind of like hard lines. You see how this is very soft, but in reality it looks very hard. Don't worry about that. We're going to soften that up in After Effects. So when we soften this up in After Effects, it'll feel like it's got that natural blur to it. So we don't have to worry too much about it. Okay, so that branch is good. Let's worry a little bit now about our back branches. I think let's just call this one main branch. And when you're done doing some work, make sure you're hitting Command S or Control S to save up your stuff. Let's look at these back branches. This one's fine, or sorry, this one's fine. This other one where the main branch is, we don't want that there at all. So we're going to have to kind of clone stamp that out as well. Let me go ahead and turn the background off so you see what you're working with. So on this back branch, you know, we're just going to kind of do this. Take my flow back up, my opacity up to full speed ahead here. And then we'll kind of like bring this down here a little bit. Bring this back up here. And you know, if it merges perfectly fine, if it doesn't, you know, no big deal. And then, like I said, if you want to blend it better, just take the opacity down and kind of give it a little bit of that action. This is totally fine. Okay, remember, we're going to soften and kind of composite this in After Effects later. So I'm not too worried about how this looks precisely in Photoshop, just as long as we have exactly what we need where we need it. I'll bring this main branch up front, but behind the front branch, so we can rebuild this. This looks pretty good. There's our bird, and then of course on top of it all our background. So back branches, main branch, bird, and then front branch. Okay, and we're almost done. The last thing we need to do is we need to build wing for this bird. Now you could probably get away with just maybe even just carving out a portion of his wing right here. You could probably just make a little curve right here, but let's get crazy, and what we'll do is we'll actually borrow a chunk of this bird's wing here, and we'll see if we can kind of get a nice little patch job right here. So just a really rough cutout. What I'll do is I'll make a selection, 0 radius. What I'll do is copy this. Okay, so I hit Command C on this layer, and then I'll hit Command V. So now I have a copy of this bird's wing. And what I can do is just simply transform it. Again, turn it around a little bit. I'll bring it over here, kind of see how it fits or where it should fit. Don't be afraid to kind of morph and adjust these things as they go. And you can see that we're kind of like just fudging with it a little bit. You know, once you have this set into place kind of where it belongs, there's a nice tool called the warp tool. So while you're in transform, just go to let's see, edit, transform, warp. Okay, so what this warp does is it lets you have this like kind of crazy real-time control over individual points here of where this belongs, so you can sort of get a little bit more precise with what it's doing, which is like really helpful. I mean, you know, we don't have to be necessarily 100% accurate, but it's nice to have a little bit of more leeway, more control over kind of where this is, where it belongs. Okay, and this looks pretty good, because what we're going to do now is once we have this piece here, which is its own layer, what we're going to do is we're going to sort of just feather it in a little bit to sort of like to blend it, and we can get more precise. So I'll get an eraser, you know, maybe 100 points or something, not too big, and then what I'll do is I'll just sort of like feather the edges here, just so that we get sort of like this natural fall into here, and then maybe even see how that. I mean, this is good enough. I mean, it's not exactly 100% accurate. We don't want any of the leaf to show, but at least now we have more bird than what we did before. This will be fine. So what I'll do is I'll take this layer that we built from that wing. I'll just again select both layers or just the top layer and hit Control E or Command E for Mac users, and then now we have our bird cut out, like where we need it to be. Go ahead and save that, and that's pretty much it. We're pretty much set for this animation. So you can see we can build out stuff here and there. Maybe we'll want to consider something, and we can talk a little bit about how this will work. But this beak, we may want to open it slightly or close it slightly in motion. So what we can do is just, we could separate these layers, or we can handle them in After Effects. So let's just leave them as they are, and then we'll handle them in After Effects when we get there. Okay, well this is the end of tutorial 2B. Again, another little cutout, prepared for animation, all the layers exactly where we need them to be. So we're going to save this as a Photoshop file, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, I'll see you in a little bit for tutorial 2C, which is another image altogether, and we'll get that squared away. Okay.